Welcome to our deep dive. You ready to jump into the Book of Ruth?
Absolutely. Always loved this story.
We're going to be looking at these 4 sermons from Metropolitan Baptist Church.
Okay.
And seeing how this ancient story, connects with us today.
Yeah.
It all starts, back in the time of Judges.
Right.
So think moral uncertainty, famine sweeping the land.
Right.
That's where we meet this family from Bethlehem, led by a guy named Elimelech.
Okay.
And they make a pretty drastic decision.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so they decide to leave Bethlehem
Okay.
and head to Moab.
Moab. Interesting. Knowing the Old Testament, we kind of understand Moab's reputation. Not exactly known for, following God's ways.
Yeah, it's almost like saying, hey, things are tough here. Let's move to, I don't know, Las Vegas or something.
Right. Seeking a temporary escape, maybe?
Not the wisest move, right?
Not exactly. And it gets even deeper when you look at their names.
Right.
Elimelech, for example, means, my God is king.
Right.
But does he consult God about this massive life change? Doesn't seem like it.
No.
And then there's Naomi, his wife. Her name means pleasantness or sweetness.
Okay.
But as hardship hits, you know what she does. She renames herself Mara, meaning bitter.
Wow. That name change really says it all, doesn't it? It's like her whole life just shifted. Makes you think, where do you turn when things get tough?
So it's a question we should all ask ourselves.
For sure. Do you lean on something steadfast, or do you look for that quick escape, like this move to Moab?
Right, because we all make decisions that seem right at the time, but sometimes those decisions, well, they lead us down some pretty unexpected paths.
And that's exactly what happens here.
Yeah.
Elimelech dies in Moab, leaving Naomi a widow.
Oh, wow.
With 2 sons.
Okay.
And those sons end up marrying Moabite women,
Okay.
Orpah and Ruth. So for a while, it seems like maybe things are looking up, right?
Yeah. New family, fresh start, maybe.
But then tragedy strikes again.
Oh, no.
Both sons die, leaving Naomi completely devastated.
So she's alone again. Back to square one.
She's facing the consequences of her choices and a deep, deep sense of loss.
Heartbreaking.
So she decides to return to Bethlehem.
Okay.
Now, her daughters-in-law are widows, too,
Right.
facing an uncertain future. And Naomi, she encourages them, go back to your own people.
Makes sense.
Maybe you'll have a better chance at rebuilding your lives there.
Yeah.
And this is where we see this pivotal moment in the story.
Okay, lay it on me.
Orpah, whose name means gazelle, she follows Naomi's advice,
Okay.
and she goes back to her former life.
All right.
But Ruth, her name means friendship.
Okay.
Ruth makes a radical decision. She pledges this unwavering loyalty to Naomi and to Naomi's God.
Wow, that's a huge commitment.
And her declaration is so powerful. She says, where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. This gives me chills,
I get it. It speaks to something deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about staying with her mother-in-law. It's about embracing this whole new way of life, this new faith. It makes you think, what does true repentance really mean, Have you ever had one of those moments?
Oh, yeah. I think we all have those moments where something just clicks and your whole direction changes.
Exactly. It's transformative.
Okay, so now let's talk about Boaz.
Okay, the hero of our story.
We first meet him when Ruth is gleaning in his field.
Gleaning.
Yeah, gathering leftover grain, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And from the very beginning, you get this sense that he's a man of noble character.
He's described as a worthy man, someone with standing, wealth.
Right.
But it's more than that.
Yeah.
He's a man of faith. His actions match his words. He treats Ruth with respect, makes sure she's safe while she works. And he's unbelievably generous.
He really goes above and beyond.
Absolutely.
He embodies those rare qualities, integrity, generosity, genuine care for others. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk.
I like that, walks the walk. Makes you think, are these the qualities we're looking for, in our own lives? Do we look beyond the surface to find the Boazes in our world?
That's a great question. In a world obsessed with image, it's hard to spot true character sometimes.
It really is.
Now, there's this fascinating detail, right? Ruth just happens to end up gleaning in Boaz's field. You think that's just coincidence.
Or maybe a little divine intervention.
Right. Remember Elimelech, who didn't trust God and ended up in Moab?
Yeah.
Boaz, he's a man who trusts God, even in famine.
Right.
And look how he flourishes. It makes you wonder, do you trust God's provision, even when things are tough, especially economically?
That hits home, especially these days.
The Book of Ruth reminds us that even when we make those, Elimelech-like choices,
Right, those not-so-great choices.
God can still work things out for good. And sometimes it's through these seemingly random encounters, like Ruth meeting Boaz, that we see his hand at work.
It's like those unexpected detours that turn out to be exactly where you're supposed to be.
And there's another layer to this whole redemption thing.
Okay, tell me more.
It turns out that Boaz is a kinsman-redeemer.
Now, that's a term we don't hear every day. What's that all about?
It was a legal thing in ancient Israel. Basically, a relative could step in and help out a family member facing hardship.
So Boaz isn't just being a nice guy.
Exactly. He's actually fulfilling this important role in their society.
Okay, so he's not just being a good Samaritan. He's got a duty to fulfill here.
And he doesn't just redeem Naomi's land, ensuring their security. He actually proposes marriage to Ruth.
Whoa, hold on. She's a Moabite, a foreigner. That's a huge step, right?
It is, but Boaz chooses her, showing his love and welcoming her into his family. This act of redemption, both practical and personal, it kind of hints at something bigger, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a foreshadowing.
Exactly.
The story of Boaz and Ruth, it points us toward the ultimate redeemer, Jesus Christ, who offers spiritual and eternal redemption for all who believe.
That's powerful. It makes you think about what areas of your life need redeeming and how this story changes your view of Jesus' sacrifice.
Definitely food for thought.
And here's where it gets mind-blowing. The book ends with the genealogy of Boaz and Ruth.
All right.
And guess what? It leads all the way to King David.
No way.
And ultimately to Jesus. So this seemingly ordinary family in Bethlehem, their journey of redemption becomes part of this much grander story.
It's like their love story is woven into the tapestry of history and salvation.
Yeah, it's incredible. But you'd think the marriage would be the happy ending, right?
Seems like it, right? Love conquers all.
But there's another twist.
Oh, there's always a twist with these biblical stories.
They face difficulty conceiving a child.
Oh, wow. So even in this seemingly happy ending, there's still a struggle.
It adds another layer to Naomi's bitterness. Remember, she changed her name because she felt punished by God.
Yeah, like she thought she was cursed.
And she encouraged this marriage, thinking it would bring happiness and restoration.
But even that doesn't seem to be working out the way she planned.
It's a reminder that even when we try to do the right thing, life can still throw us curveballs.
That's for sure. Life is full of surprises.
Yeah.
It's true. Life throws those curveballs when you least expect it.
But then there's this glimmer of hope.
Tell me more.
Ruth conceives, and the whole town rejoices.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
It's like this symbol of hope and restoration. Even the women of Bethlehem, they say, a son has been born to Naomi.
It's like they recognize that this child is bringing joy back into her life.
After so much sorrow.
Yeah.
And you know the name Obed is significant.
What does it mean?
It means serving.
Serving. That foreshadows another son, when you say?
You were talking about Jesus, right? The one who said, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Exactly. It's like this theme of redemption is woven through the entire story.
It really is. You have Boaz rescuing Naomi and Ruth from their plight,
Right.
and then Obed's name pointing towards Jesus, the ultimate redeemer.
And it gets even more amazing.
What's that?
The book ends with Obed's son, Jesse, becoming the father of King David.
Oh, wow. So from this ordinary family in Bethlehem
Yeah.
emerges the most renowned king in Israel's history.
It's incredible, right? A testament to God's power to use anyone, even a Moabite widow.
To accomplish his extraordinary purposes.
Exactly. And it's like God is saying, look, I can use anyone, regardless of their background or their past mistakes, to be part of my grand plan.
It reminds us that God's plans are so much bigger than our own limited understanding.
We might be focused on our little corner of the world, but he's weaving together this magnificent narrative across generations.
And ultimately leading to the salvation of all humanity.
It's a beautiful cosmic perspective.
So what can we, living in 2024, take away from this ancient story? What insights can we glean from it?
Well, it definitely makes you think about where you place your hope. Do you depend on your own strength, like Elimelech? Or do you trust in God's provision, even when facing those seemingly insurmountable obstacles?
Like those mountains you just can't climb over.
Exactly. It also highlights the importance of looking beyond appearances, recognizing genuine character.
Like Boaz did with Ruth.
Yeah, Boaz wasn't just drawn to Ruth because of her looks. He saw her inner qualities, her kindness, her hard work, her loyalty. And it emphasizes the idea that God can use anyone.
Anyone.
To fulfill his divine plan. I mean, Ruth was a Moabite widow, a foreigner, And yet, God chose her to be part of the lineage of Jesus Christ.
It's so inspiring. Like God is saying, your past doesn't define you. I see your heart. And if you're willing to follow me, I can use you in extraordinary ways.
That's a powerful message. And don't forget the importance of community.
Yeah, having people to support you through tough times.
Exactly. Naomi had her daughters-in-law. Ruth had Boaz. They didn't face their challenges alone. And it makes you think, who are those people in your life who have stood by you?
Makes you appreciate those folks who have your back no matter what.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to be that for others, to offer kindness and generosity, even when it's inconvenient.
Yeah, even when it's hard.
Because that's what love is all about.
And one thing that really struck me was how the people of Bethlehem celebrated with Boaz and Ruth when they finally had a child.
It was a community celebration.
They saw it as a blessing for everyone, not just for the parents.
Which is beautiful. It contrasts with some modern views where kids are seen as a burden.
Right, right.
The Book of Ruth shows us that children are a gift.
Yeah.
A source of joy and hope.
And that they named him Obed, serving, suggests that they're not just meant to be served, but to serve others too.
It's about raising that next generation to be compassionate and selfless.
To make the world a better place. So it's not just a love story or even a redemption story.
It's a story about legacy.
Yeah, about the impact we have on the world.
And how even the smallest actions can ripple through generations.
It's a powerful thought. What kind of legacy are you leaving?
How will your actions today shape the lives of those who come after you?
Wow. These sermons have been so thought-provoking. Unwise decisions, redemption, trusting God. It's amazing how relevant this ancient story still is today.
The Bible is full of timeless wisdom. These stories were written for us too. They guide us through the complexities of life.
Absolutely. We have one final sermon in this series.
Okay, looking forward to it.
I'm really eager to hear how they conclude this deep dive into the Book of Ruth. What do you think we can expect?
I think they'll connect everything together, tie it all back to our need for redemption through Jesus. And I'm curious what kind of challenge or encouragement they offer us as we think about this story and what it means for our lives today.
Well, in this final sermon, the pastor really emphasizes how love finds a way, even in those unexpected circumstances.
Right.
And he uses some really vivid imagery.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller.
To bring the story to life.
Yeah, I like how he described that scene at the city gate.
Oh, yeah.
Where Boaz is waiting for the kinsman-redeemer.
You can just picture him sitting there, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Patient, expectant, trusting God to work it all out.
It's like he's saying, okay, God, I've done my part. Now it's your move.
Exactly.
And then, wouldn't you know it, the kinsman-redeemer shows up.
But there's a twist, isn't there?
There's always a twist. Boaz lays it all out, buying Naomi's land.
Right.
But that also means marrying Ruth.
And suddenly?
And suddenly the kinsman-redeemer, he gets cold feet. He's worried about his reputation, what people will think.
It's like he wants the benefits without the responsibility.
It makes you think about those times when we shy away from commitment.
Or sacrifice.
Even if it means missing out on something amazing.
Yeah, we go for the easy path, the comfortable choice.
Even if it means settling.
For less than God's best for us.
And that's where the contrast between the kinsman-redeemer and Boaz is so clear.
Right, Boaz isn't afraid of commitment.
He sees Ruth's value, her worth.
He's willing to do what's right.
Even if it means going against what society expects.
He's like, I don't care what other people think. This woman is amazing, and I'm going to marry her.
I love that. The pastor's description of the wedding celebration, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, pure joy.
For Boaz and Ruth and for Naomi.
The whole community, they just get it.
They see this redemptive power of love, of God's faithfulness.
That's beautiful.
And there's that moment when the women pray for Ruth and Boaz.
Oh, yeah.
They ask God to make their marriage like Rachel and Leah's.
Who together built the house of Israel.
It's such a beautiful image. Unity and fruitfulness.
They're not just wishing them a happy marriage.
Yeah.
They're praying for a family.
It's legacy.
To build something bigger than themselves.
And it's interesting they compare Ruth to both Rachel and Leah.
Yeah. They weren't just sisters.
They were rivals.
Competing for their husband's love.
But together, they played this vital role in the story of Israel.
Right. It's like the pastor saying, even with imperfection, conflict, rivalry, God can still use us to do amazing things.
I never thought of it that way.
And then, of course, the birth of Obed.
It's a miracle.
God granting life.
Orchestrating this incredible event.
A reminder that children are a gift.
And the name Obed, meaning serving, It reinforces this idea that we're all called to serve.
To use our gifts to make a difference.
And then the pastor connects Obed to Jesus,
The ultimate
who
servant.
came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many.
That thread of redemption running through the whole story.
It's like Boaz prefigures Christ.
Foreshadowing that ultimate sacrifice.
And the pastor really emphasizes that Jesus' redemption, it's for everyone.
Not just a select few.
He says the word many doesn't just mean certain groups, it means everyone, regardless of background, wealth, ethnicity.
It's such a powerful image of God's love and grace reaching out to all of us.
We all need redemption.
We're all imperfect.
And then the last part of the sermon, the pastor takes us through the genealogy,
From Boaz and Ruth
all the way to King David.
and to Jesus.
It's amazing how this ordinary family from Bethlehem,
Becomes such a crucial part of salvation history,
it's like this tapestry.
woven together by God.
And our lives, even when they feel mundane,
They're part of something so much bigger,
we're all connected.
and our actions can impact generations to come.
And a pastor leaves us with this challenge,
To evaluate our own plans,
to ask ourselves, are we relying on our own strength?
or trusting in God,
Are we willing to step out in faith like Boaz,
and embrace the path God has for us.
even if it's unconventional, challenging,
It's a call to surrender
to let go of our own agendas?
and let God shape our stories.
Because his plans are always better.
And His love always finds a way.
What a beautiful conclusion to our deep dive into Ruth.
It reminds us that even in hardship, loss, uncertainty, God is at work,
Weaving together this story of redemption and hope.
leading us to the greatest love story of all time.
So, as you go about your week,
Yeah.
think about what we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you need to place your trust?
Are you willing to be a redeemer for someone else?
How does your story fit into God's grand narrative?
Let the story of Boaz and Ruth inspire you to live a life of love, faithfulness, generosity,
Because ultimately, it's not about our own comfort or success.
but about being part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep discovering the truth hidden in these ancient texts.
Are you blessed by this Grace Notes episode? Subscribe to our channel to get notified when we publish another one. See the description below for a link to the Ruth Sermon Series playlist. And while you are here, like and share this episode. Help us to reach people where they are and point them to Jesus, the living hope.